Hello and welcome to Landy's Crypto Corner. Today is February 15th, 2024, and we are staring at charts yet again, taking a look at Bitcoin on the daily here to start. We can see that Bitcoin has put in another higher high on this particular move. We have, we've got a high on the wick from yesterday coming in at 52,890. Now, if we head over to the support and resistance chart here, we can see that this is the area that we were looking for, right around the September of 2021 weekly swing high. Now, for a little bit of context, we can take a look at the weekly chart and scroll back in time here and see exactly which high this was. Now, in the context of support and resistance, we did have an area between the two weeklies up here at 50,800 on the close open here, and the wick high spiking just above this close open here at 51.8. Now, this was a big area, and I had mentioned that the 51.8 was going to be the primary resistance. The secondary resistance is that 50,800. Now, it did pass through the 50,800 and the 51.8 and went all the way up to test the swing high here at around 52,900. It's coming in roughly around 52,974, so $53,000. So we have seen that target pretty much fulfilled now. And in the context of the weekly here, we can see that Bitcoin's looking pretty strong above the upper second standard deviation, at least as it stands now, which is coming in at around 51.8 on that weekly time frame. When looking at the daily, we can see that, as Bitcoin has reclaimed these areas on daily closes, it has moved up. So for instance, once it reclaimed the monthlies here, it moved to the top side monthly, so the 45.5 monthly. It that then went and reclaimed the 47K monthly, tested directly into the monthly swing high. This was the bear market swing high from 2022 at around 48,230 to 240. Above there, it started to find a little bit of resistance, but then claimed it, or reclaimed it, I should say, back tested it, and then moved on to the next weekly area. And in one daily candle, took out both the 50,800 and 51.8 ever so slightly, coming in with a close there at 51,858. And in yesterday's candle, went up to test that 2021 bear market or bull market swing high. This was prior to putting in the higher highs. My apologies. It was the bull market. So this was coming after the daily Wyckoff reaccumulation. Bitcoin hit the spring, went up to around $53,000, and then went back for a retest. There was quite a big drawdown after that. As it stands right now, Bitcoin's in a very strong position. As long as it remains above the upper first standard deviation on the daily, it will continue to get Bollinger Band expansion to the upside and pull those lower standard deviations up with it. Now, we only see the lower first currently pointed up, but I would expect if Bitcoin can close anywhere above this upper first in today's price action, which happens to be above this wick high at $49,000, it's coming in at 49,350. Now, if Bitcoin does head back towards this upper first, it's going to probably come in right around $49,000 where this wick high is. So I would exercise some caution if you do see a bearish reclaim of this area, as we could potentially see price head down to test this close open here at around $47,000, which of course is that monthly prior resistance here. Now, we did see Bitcoin backtest this $47,000 monthly, but just ever so slightly in the lower term timeframes on the daily here on the 10th. So something to keep in mind. Looking very good in terms of expansion on the Bollinger Bands here. We do see BBWP is at a 96 over 94, so still getting price volatility expansion in and outside of the upper second standard deviation. Now, the upper second has passed price yet again, so we have some pretty clear criteria. If we're going to see higher highs, we'll see this trade above the daily upper second and yesterday's wick high, which is coming in at around 52.9. It's 52,890, but some exchanges actually went to around $53,000 and actually swung that 2021 weekly wick high there. And if we do see price trading above there, I would look somewhere around the mid $50,000 region initially to then possibly start targeting the monthly overhead there, especially if Bitcoin can get above and close above the daily upper second and this September of 21 weekly swing high. I would eventually start targeting somewhere around the mid 50s by the upper third to this 58,800 area. You can kind of give it a range between 58,000 and the monthly above it at around 61, in this case 61,350, 61 and a half or so, which is, getting into the thick of the prior all-time highs. Excuse me as I nearly lose my voice here. I did want to point out that if Bitcoin were to get a bearish reclaim of the upper first and this wick high over here at $49,000, keep a close eye on this wick low area right into the March of 2022 monthly swing high, or the bear market swing high, at around that 48,230 to 240. Below there, I would look right back to the monthly at 47K. And then below there, we have in this monthly zone now the daily basis band, which is coming in at 45,800. And the monthly is directly below it. This is a close open, very important one there at 45.5. If that were to be lost, then I would start targeting the weeklies back down here, right around the prior consolidation before the move up, which is coming in at 43.2 to 3, down to the lower first there, coming in at 42,300 to the weekly just below at 41.8. If it lost the consolidation lows here at the weekly at 41.8, it would not be a good look for the bulls here. I would expect prices to come down into the lower $41,000 area, mid $40,000 area, and possibly even go for this weekly again down here where the lower second standard deviation on the daily is at 39 to the monthly just below at 38.5, where we saw this perfectly tagged prior to this move up. So nice refuel in this area. It would be a lot for the bulls to give up to go all the way back there. And just keep in mind, price is bullish on the daily, especially as long as it is closing candles above the basis and upper first. I see no issue with that. And in terms of structure, the last higher low is coming in down here at 41.8. So a pullback into higher low structure on the daily is to be expected at some point soon. We might just get quick spikes down on swings like we saw back here on the 13th, right into this March 2022 monthly swing high area at 48,240 again. But, that's not a given. Things are looking very bullish right now. It could rather continue to march. But I would be cautious as it is entering some pretty important areas. And we do see that momentum is in the overbought zone here. Now, this is a regular Stochh momentum. It is not a Stochh RSI, which measures the velocity of RSI. In this case, this is measuring close over close price action. It is running a 6/3/14 255 look back. So if you are interested in picking one up, this is a free Stochh by Trader Hali, and I'm probably butchering that name. In this case, we can see that the pivot is now at 52,331. So we do have an initial cross to the downside, or, well, it's kind of like crossed into at this point because Bitcoin is trading below $52,000 currently. But if it can close back above 52,331, I would look for it to run back up to that, that area just under 53K by yesterday's wick high. And of course, if it can close above there, I'd look for continuation into the further into the mid to low $50,000 area. Possibly if it starts closing up there, we can start targeting the mid to high $50,000 area into the low 60s. But until we see that develop in today or tomorrow's price action in terms of the candle, this is the Friday candle. So when I say tomorrow, I mean the Saturday candle. Then I would just exercise a little bit of caution in this area. Now we also can see that BBWP is still up over the moving average here on the daily, and it is, at a fairly extreme read, but it can keep hanging up here. And even when BBWP gets below the moving average, indicating mean reversion, if Bitcoin is still hanging on the highs, what we would see is the upper second standard deviation, upper first, and basis continue up while pulling the lower standard deviations to the upside. Now, this is all provided that Bitcoin is closing above that basis and especially above the upper first. And even when it's in a quote mean reversion phase from the BBWP or price volatility side of things, it can still continue to test the upper bands. So as the upper second continues to move up, it can still test those areas. And in fact, it becomes even more likely of a target as these start to outrace price action, especially if Bitcoin hangs out, goes sideways for a little while, and then the basis and upper first catches up, refuels at those areas, maybe puts in a swing higher low and or a closing higher low, and then continues on to test those bands that would have then now expanded pretty far above price action, getting a little bit of compression again, and then continuation. Now we can see this basically this happened back here in this really sideways and up March back in November of 2023, and spiked on expansion up to the top side, came back to the basis band, went sideways, basically double bottomed on the daily, and then continued to consolidate for a little while here, spiking both the upper and lower standard deviation zones of the bands, and then spiking up again with expansion, running those lows, scaring the crap out of everybody. But again, we were talking about this coming right into that monthly at 38.5. Nailed that one nearly to the dollar. Came in at 38.501. So $1 off there. Came back up to the basis band. We saw the pinch by the basis band and upper first. So we got some compression to re-expansion. So the next big leg will come really on the next compression to re-expansion. And, it could be a leg up further. It could also be a leg down. But we can check on higher term timeframes in the daily here to kind of get a bias on that. We can see that the 2-day did close above the upper second standard deviation, continuing this really aggressive expansion of the Bollinger Band. So the upper second is now coming in at 51,500. Bitcoin is currently trading above it. And of course, this is within the local zone. I'm going to show you some lower term timeframes as it relates to the local price action in the lower term timeframes, like the 15-minute, hourly, and 4-hour, and how to kind of determine when things might start to fall apart based on the volume areas and volume candles as support and resistance as well. Just another confluence that you would need to take into account with what I'm talking about right now on some of these higher term timeframes. Now, below the upper second standard deviation, we can see that the upper first has moved to this wick high here at around 47,900, so nearly $48,000. It is $900 above the monthly support resistance zone. Again, that zone is pretty big between those monthlies at 47 to 45.5. We can see that if Bitcoin did lose that area on the 2-day at around that 47.9, 48K, then it would open up the possibility for price to come back to the basis band on the 2-day at around 44,286, which is now above the prior consolidation prior to the move up to new highs. If that was lost, you can see the lower first is expanding to the downside as the Bollinger Bands are in an expansive phase. We can see lower first is now at 40,800, lower second is well below price action in the thick of this consolidation down here at $37,000, which again, 37.7 down to 36.2 is actually a big weekly support zone that Bitcoin has tested prior. We can see that we're continuing with BBWP expansion, 87 over a 78, so looking pretty good here. Yep, looks good. So at minimum, we're not even looking at BBWP getting that mean reversion for at least another close or two. We'll see what happens in this 2-day time frame as we do have this candle closing with Saturday's candles. So this will be something interesting to watch over the weekend. We can see on the 3-day continued expansion, BBWP well up over the moving average at 76 over 42. Again, you can see this on the Landy Bands indicator, which is free and linked in the video description below. You can pick that up. It's got bands and it has a built-in BBWP indicator down here. It is a box. Green means that the BBWP is over the moving average. So in this case, the 76 over 42 there, indicating that not only are we getting Bollinger Band expansion, we're getting price volatility expansion in the context of Bollinger Band expansion, which is basically showing us that this move is not over to the upside just yet. And it still has legs, basically. It's still very bullish, especially bullish above the upper second standard deviation at 50,325 or so. If it did lose that area on the 3-day time frame, then I would look back to the upper first as the next big area. That's coming in where? $47,000. And below there, if it was to lose that, we'd be looking at mean reversion back to the basis at minimum, somewhere around $44,000. Again, basis band above the prior consolidation highs. That's a very bullish sign. Although, if it did lose it, lower first is down here below the consolidation as Bollinger Bands expand the standard deviations after compression like this, which is a beautiful compression, by the way. Then that would be an area of interest, of course, in the upper $40,000 region. So something that we touched on earlier as well. If this rally completely fell apart and reversed and took out some of those important areas to the downside. Now, the momentum pivot on the 3-day is going to be 44,750, we'll call it, 745, 750 area. Looking very bullish right now. I do like this. I'm not sure what this line is that's dancing around here. I'll have to investigate that on the indicator. It seems like a bug, to be quite honest. Only shows up on some time frames. We see the 4-day. So we have a 2-day, 3-day, and 4-day all closing on Saturday. So it's going to be an interesting weekend to watch price action. And we can see that we have confirmed BBWP expansion, so price volatility expansion in the context of Bollinger Band expansion after a bit of compression here and spike off the lower first. It's marching on up. It's telling me that this move is not over anytime soon, at least from the 4-day perspective. In this case, a 51 over 22, plus it's trading above the upper second standard deviation. That means that it can even get mean reversion back to the upper first, and it would still be in an expansive phase as it stands right now from the 4-day perspective. The upper second is currently at 49,500, so that would be an area to pay attention to the downside. Again, it's all still above, for the upper seconds at least, above that 48,230 bear market monthly swing high. So below there, we can see the upper first is skating right around the top side of this close here at around $47,000. It's just underneath it there at 46,770. And that, of course, is a major monthly support resistance area. Below there, basis is right above the prior consolidation prior to the move up. We only had a 2-close consolidation in the context of the 4-day chart here, but looking good, coming in at the top side there at just under $44,000. Below there, we see the lower first is above the deviation lows down there, coming in at 41,100 to 41,200. When looking at the Stoke momentum pivot, we can see that it is at 42,400. So that's very good, very far away from price as it stands right now. We have the 5-day, which had just opened when we talked about this yesterday during our live stream. We can see that we have confirmed BBWP expansion. It's up over the moving average, so price volatility expansion in the context of Bollinger Band expansion yet again. We can see that the upper first is down here at just under that big monthly zone at $47,000. And it's actually above the prior 5-day close open now. Very, very bullish in this case. If it was dropped, the basis is coming in above the deviation lows. In the context of the weekly, the closes never came below this open back here in early December at 38.7. So the lower first is right in that area as well at around 38.5, right at the monthly, which is this wick low here. Now, that is a very bullish thing when looking at Bollinger Bands. Bitcoin, of course, getting that expansion in the prior 5-day close of the Bollinger Bands and price volatility. The upper second standard deviation is sitting there at 51,200. Looks like it got a little bit of a back test here recently. And, that is bullish. Being above there is aggressive expansion to the upside. So this could very easily run to some of those deeper targets, the mid 50,000 to upper 50,000, maybe even low $60,000 region, if it so desires. It just has to meet the criteria that we talked about earlier in this video. Now, the momentum pivot is a big one. This is going to be 43,870 or 879 rather. So basically $44,000. Again, this is the top side of this higher low in this case, to be quite honest. It was a swing lower low, but looking very, very nice. We'll touch on the weekly here. We did talk about this yesterday. If Bitcoin can close above the upper second standard deviation, which is at 51,750, then we would see, more aggressive Bollinger Band expansion to the upside. In this case, we can already see that we have an upside angle on the lower standard deviations, and the lower second is above the higher low that really kicked off this move to the upside. We now have full trend too. So we had the downtrend, we had the higher low to a trend break, we had the nice uptrend here with a nice swing high to swing low that put in a higher low on last week's close, and this looks like continuation to the upside. So weekly looks very strong. Also have BBWP at a 19/11, and what we want to see follow through with the weekly here is on the next weekly close. We want to see, because BBWP is above the moving average, we want to see the moving average confirm it with an upside slope. We have all of the time frames below it already doing this, so very, very bullish if it does turn back to the upside. That does mean that, from the daily perspective and even, time frames lower than the weekly, price heading back down is likely to get picked up. Of course, that's not financial advice. That's just my read on or my take on what's going on with the volatility expansion as it relates to trend, which trend is the most important, support and resistance. Second, we've got, there's not really a priority, but you take trend, support and resistance, and volatility. Those three components create momentum. So in this case, we can also check on the momentum pivot, which is at 48,500. So very, very nice if Bitcoin can close above there, which would also be above the March 22 lower high on the monthly, that swing there that kind of kicked off the bear market at 48,230 to 240. Then we would see this confirm with both a K and D cross back to the upside. Currently, we have the K up over the D read, but we want to see both of them get a positive slope. We will then see the Stoke pivot drop to likely, if I had to guess, and this would be a guess, quite honestly, likely somewhere around this spike low or close low area in the mid to low $40,000 region, or mid to low 40s, I should say, not $40,000, but mid to low 40s. So 45 and under, somewhere around there, if this can complete its cross back to the upside. Looks very good, very bullish right now. Is it getting overheated? From the context of the daily, it's getting there, but it's not done yet. As I've kind of pointed out, BBWP is still up over the moving average, still trading above that upper first. We're not looking at a compression phase just yet, so this move still has plenty of potential to keep marching on to the upside until we start to see that. And it can even, like I said, it can even go and test further up in the context of mean reversion of price volatility. So price can head down, bands pass price to the upside. It can also spike it before going into a little bit further of a compression. So we are not at the stage yet where we are looking for compression just yet. So we'll see what today holds. We'll see what tomorrow holds as well. I will be live streaming tomorrow. And let's jump into some of the lower term timeframes like the 15-minute. We're going to talk about volume as it relates to the local area or the local consolidation of price. Now, to be quite honest, this looks like a bullish consolidation at first pass. But, we have our very clearly defined criteria in terms of the bands and support and resistance. And of course, trend is king. So if it continues a downtrend that breaks the lows here, then we're looking at price heading down a little bit further. But let's go ahead and throw volume on here. And I'm going to show you how we can use volume to determine demand and or deconstruct the order book. And in this case, I'm taking the highest volume spike highs of this move up. All right. And we could see that we had a nice big volume candle here from close to wick high that defined, the lows over here just prior to spiking up. We saw it come back down and test in and around this closing candle, which was higher volume as it related to the volume before it. We also then saw another nice high volume candle on a close open here with the close coming in at 51.8. Again, right at that weekly with the spike high coming in there in the low $52,000 region. So we marked that from the close open to the wick high. So we've got this close open to the wick high, nice high volume candle. We've got the next close open to wick high, nice high volume candle. And then when we see that price came down here, we know if it starts to reverse off this area or sit on this area, that this was a historically significant volume area, and its potential to be flipped into support is very high. So we did see this flip into support. It tested the upside resistance here, bounced down a little bit, held the lower first standard deviations, got some nice compression, expanded through that area, did not put in very high volume, but you can mark this candle and its wick high if you like, because it did hold this consolidation down, but look where it found support. Swung down into this close open high volume candle here, did deviate it, popped back up, found support on the top side of it, and then made new highs on significant volume here. Now, you'll note that I'm only marking the highs. Well, that's because the move on volume was hitting areas of interest or resistance to the upside. And what we're looking for is for those to flip into support. So when we get the high volume that we've seen in these areas, like after it lost this high volume candle over here at 51.8, which is also that weekly, we saw volume come in, but it broke down to the next level anyway. So how you can determine this is if the high volume that's coming in this support zone, which was holding as support for 3 very nice swing lows here, it starts to lose that and close below it, well, you just look down to the next higher volume area that you had marked off. And in this case, we saw volume come in this zone right here, which is where this move is kind of being defined on the downside between basically 51 to 51.4, 51.8 at that weekly to 52.100. And then above there, we've got that area right below the 2021 swing high there on the weekly that I pointed out, right around that $53,000 area. To be fair, it's just below 53, but we're seeing resistance coming into that zone with some decent volume in there, around 52,650 to around that 52,900. So that's it's pretty clear. If it breaks the 52,900, it's going to go test that $53,000 swing high, and probably, if it can close above there, start testing up into the mid 50s, maybe even a little bit further to the upper $50,000 area, 50,600 to 800, 58 to around 60 or so. But yeah, that's going to do it for me today. I just wanted to give you a little tip on the local area. Of course, if 51 is dropped, we have to start paying attention to 50 down to that bear market wick high at 48, 230 to 240. All right, that's going to do it for me today. You have a wonderful morning, afternoon, and evening, no matter where you are in the world. Please trade safe. And of course, as always, stay safe. With all of that being said, Landy out.